Hey, welcome to the Out of Spec podcast. We are joined here with John Neff. He is editor at large with Motor1, and of course, we have Kyle Connor here with me, and I'm Jordan Schieffer. And we're just going to talk about electric RVs in general, cars. This is just fun automotive content with a special guest. So, guys, let's kick it right off. What do you want to start with?
Well, I think it's important to talk about John's history in automotive because John ran one of the largest automotive sites for a long time and is now sort of on to the next chapter for a little bit. So, John, can you give us a history of AutoBlog, then Motor1 and Inside EVs, and now what's coming in the future?
Sure. Yeah. I started in this business of automotive journalism in the early 2000s, and I started writing for AutoBlog and quickly became its editor-in-chief. And I ran that site for 10 years until the early teens. I left there. I had a brief stint at The Wirecutter, which was one of my absolute favorite sites for buying guides and things like that. And I helped them set up their kind of automotive division. And then I came to Motor1 in about 2017. And I've been with Motor1 for 5 years. I was editor-in-chief for most of those 5 years. And we've had a really great, successful run. We've built not only Motor1 into a global network of about 13 different editions written in 12 different languages. But we've also we acquired Inside EVs and have also built that site out to a big global network as well. So, but recently I stepped back from my editor-in-chief role to kind of a smaller editor-at-large role because I'm taking this next year off with my wife to basically go RVing around the country. We put an order in for a Winnebago Echo, which I know you're familiar with, Kyle. You've got the other one, the Revel. And we're basically waiting for it to be delivered. It's been delayed because of chip shortages, and they had one recalled where they stopped production. So we're basically waiting for that RV, and then we're going to take off, and I'm just going to kind of help with Motor1 and Inside EVs on the side as much as I can while we're traveling.
And well, so, okay, that's, I mean, honestly, one of the most impressive automotive careers, a journalist could want, because, you really led to the creation of, I think, some of the most reputable sites that are in the business. So, our audience knows we do a ton of stuff with Inside EVs. We're huge friends and fans of the site. But it's really impressive of just how ethical and how great the coverage is. How do you build a team to get excited to write about news, get excited to write about cars, and not necessarily just go out and slide around and do the silly stuff, but actually sort of move the industry forwards in terms of coverage?
Yeah, it's interesting because as an editor-in-chief, I think I'm very odd. Because I think a lot of editor-in-chiefs are the face of the brand, and they're the ones who take the biggest invites to drive the fanciest cars, and that's kind of the editor-in-chief style I grew up with. I'm much more like the wizard behind the curtain. I'm very much an operational editor-in-chief, and I spend a lot of time with my team embedded doing the things that they're doing. And probably the thing I'm most proud of, because I'm not the world's best writer, I'm not the world's best driver. I like managing the team, and I think like the statistic I'm most proud of is how little turnover our teams have had. Like, we have writers who've been with us since the beginning of Motor1, all 5 years. Most of the team has, and that at the bare minimum tells me they enjoy what they're doing and they enjoy who they're doing it with. And we all have a good time while we're doing it. And I think that's, if you can create that atmosphere in a business where you still have to make money, I think that's a real achievement. So yeah, it's hard. I mean, finding people is always the hardest. I mean, you probably know this, when you're looking for people to hire, you just never know. It's a crapshoot kind of, and you just do your best to kind of feel somebody out. And you want them to be good at what you want them to do. But I think it's also important, you want to meld personalities together. So, they need to work with a group as well. And so, yeah, it's, being a manager, as I'm sure you know, Kyle, is also managing personalities and getting everyone to work well together and pointing them in the same direction and making that train move along the track. So so yeah, that's kind of what I see the job of an editor-in-chief as.
That's an interesting perspective, because we have much more of a dictatorship here where we just go the way I want to go, depending on the mood.
Yeah. You can do that too.
No, I mean, no, but it is impressive. Like I've worked with you for Inside EVs, never as a full-time employee, but have seen the way you've managed. And it's always been shocking to me how things get done in such an efficient way. And so, yeah, just huge respect for what you've been able to do with these brands, because I don't think people realize how crazy it is to manage a global platform. You're dealing with people in every time zone with different languages, and this guy's got that problem. This guy's got that. This one has this opinion. And this is something that we've kind of been struggling with, starting a new site. We're brand new. We're, 20 years, 30 years behind everyone trying to do this and playing catch up, which all the odds are against us. How do you get someone, maybe you don't, who has really strong personal bias towards X to then cover something objectively? And obviously that's supposed to be their job, but what does that even look like? Have you had to deal with that before? That's been my hardest problem.
Yes. I mean, I have had to deal with it before. And remember, like, you and I are kind of in new media, right? A lot of people that we're working with, that we hire even, didn't go to journalism school. So they didn't get that idea beat into them about objectivity, about not having bias. When you do get people who've gone to journalism school, they're usually already trained to do that. But when you pick, bloggers and just people who are good writers up off the street, and a lot of the people I work with and have hired or contracted to write for us are like that. They didn't go to journalism school. They just have a passion for this subject, and they're good writers. You either have to teach them that, or they come with that. But when I have encountered that really strong bias, and they won't let it go, no matter how many times I've talked to them about it, that you have to kind of have a conversation with them and say, look, if you can't walk down the middle and show both sides, then this isn't the right place for you. There are sites that are pro this and pro that, and you can go right there and have a great career. But you need to be able to write down the middle in such a way that includes, I think, your tone. Because you can write the correct words to put both sides of an issue, but writing also has a tone to it. And I've seen a lot of writers who have a bias. They try to write objectively, but that tone seeps through. And it's like the readers can tell you have an opinion on this. And right there, the validity, the integrity of your piece is gone, because they know you're either for or against this one thing. And obviously in the world of EVs, Tesla is the giant thing that everybody has an opinion about. And so yeah, we've had issues around people, trying to writing about Tesla has been the most challenging automaker to write about in my career. And that's just one of the reasons why.
Yeah. I mean, it's also partially because we can't go to them and get any comment. So it's purely speculation.
Yeah. All you've got is this one guy who's his own personality tweeting. And so that colors everything. And then you add in that people are trying to make money off of Tesla stock. And so, you have the anti-Tesla people and the pro-Tesla people who are both trying to make money. And they're constantly trying to feed bias into the news cycle to get what they want, to either make the stock go up or down. And we've had to put up safeguards against that. And tips that come in about Tesla get treated very much more strictly with gone over with a fine-tooth comb than about any other automaker, because we've been burned so many times by taking a tip, writing about it, and then finding out that this was just a guy who had an agenda because he's shorting Tesla or vice versa. It happens on both sides.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is welcome to the world of EVs, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But on the media side, what is the future going to look like? Is it video? Is it written? Obviously, no one's doing print anymore, but we're seeing the shift from journalists that went to school, that went through. I think really the only journalistic media outlet would be Motor Week, they were doing their, John Davis doing his show every week. But what do you think the future looks like with YouTubers us idiots playing around with cars, then going to review them. What's the path in?
It's so funny that you bring that up, because earlier in my career when I was at AutoBlog, video was much younger then. But I got my views about doing video for cars then when video was it was very expensive and the return on investment was very low and very not guaranteed. And over the last decade or 15 years, none of that's kind of changed. Like video is still can still be very expensive to create, and the return on investment can still be very low if we're just talking about a YouTube channel and what YouTube pays. There's some big differences that have happened in the last 15 years, though. For one, I never thought that I would sit down in the evening and turn on YouTube to watch. You know, back in the day, I had cable and I watched my shows. Maybe I TiVo'd them. But nowadays, like, YouTube is one of the first things I turn on when I sit down in the evening to see what new videos from the people I like have come. So, you know, YouTube being like its own network is I think a huge development. But then also the other social media platforms like TikTok, like Instagram, and like Facebook, like, you know, video exists on all of those other platforms too. So video has always been a challenge because of the return on investment equation. And if you don't have that figured out beforehand of like, where is that revenue going to come from eventually, because usually you don't start off with the revenue right away. You got to build the audience. You know, if you don't figure that out, you're not going to have a very long runway, because video is just going to eat up so much of your costs so quickly. So yeah, it's been, I have tons of respect for people like you who go out and create YouTube channels and brands from scratch. You make yourselves the brand. I think that has been kind of proven to be the successful path when you're looking at video. You know, you make yourself the brand, you be consistent, you feed, just like with our blogs, and we're putting out tons of articles every day. You know, you need to be consistent with video and put out a number of videos every week at a regular time so people can get used to when it's coming and be ready for it and all of that. So yeah, like I said, I think you have, even though you may have been doing this a lot less long than I have, you have a lot more experience with video and being down in those trenches. I
mean, we figured out YouTube, but that's just one platform. I mean, at the end of the day, we've built, what do we have, 11 channels now, something like that. And we're doing 53 videos a week.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. Yeah. Something like this is what we have to do. And so, I mean, the big question is, what happens if YouTube fails? Then we're going to go sleep on your couch or in your Echo one day. Right. So
right. Yeah.
You know, there's not much of a backup. So I've been super interested in, we need to get the YouTube machine up and running. All of the money that the bigger channels creates goes into funding the smaller channels. In about 3 years, we'll repeat the cycle, and this will just kind of get bigger if everything stays the same. The big question is, what if it just doesn't work? And so there are other channels, content.
And I think fortunately, YouTube has shown to be not like, say, an AOL or a Yahoo. Like they're definitely old internet, but they seem to be kind of with us forever.
They progress with the times, yeah.
Yeah, they've made enough changes to progress with the times, and they haven't always made the right ones. And I think they still have a lot of things to improve, especially to treat publishers better. And you know, I think it's still true that they're the second largest
search engine.
Yep. So you know, that's huge, and of course Google owns them, so they're weaved in with Google, which is all important. But yeah, I think things will eventually change, and just like, you know, with the advent of TikTok and that came on the scene so fast, has become so big so quickly. But it's all a question about monetizing, right? Like you can, I think it's important to experiment on all the platforms that come along, and you have to see, will that platform provide revenue directly through their structure, you know, like the TikTok Creator Fund or how YouTube pays? Or does this platform present a new way to monetize where you work directly with the company that advertises to do, like, you know, spots in them or something like that? And, you know, I definitely see larger YouTube channels going that route, where they're getting direct advertisers. They're doing,
that's how we make our money.
Yeah, live commercials, things like that. So yeah, you can't live off of YouTube's programmatic revenue.
Yeah, and it changes for each month. I was just looking at our numbers, and we have a 70% dip December to January. Yeah. And that's just because everyone was advertising, then they weren't. Thankfully, we have Lexi, and she does all of our sales, and I don't have to think about the numbers. But like, I don't know what other YouTube channels would be doing. I think, and YouTube does a terrible job of explaining future predictions, how you're making your money, and like you mentioned, publishing tools is garbage. So the site needs a lot of work, but I think it is here to stay. The big thing for me is new short form stuff. Yeah. I mean, we get recognized, I think it's location based around town from TikTok more than we do on YouTube. And so like, I'll walk into Starbucks and be like, you're the dude from TikTok. And I'm like, we make YouTube videos every day. Like,
yeah, check out our YouTube channel.
Yeah, this is such an important platform. And yeah, but the hardest thing to figure out with TikTok is how their algorithms work. They're constantly changing. Same with YouTube, same with Google. But TikTok seems to really like go from one end of the spectrum to the other. And so
yeah, it swings wildly. It'll give you the world one day and then just totally cut off the spigot the next day. It's funny though, because I dabble in every social media platform as they come out because of my job and trying to see if, you know, Motor1 or Inside of Views needs to be on it. And I never really got into Instagram. I never really got into Twitter. TikTok came along and I'm addicted like a 14-year-old girl. Like I you know, have my TikTok session every single night where I'm on it for like over an hour.
Same.
Yeah, it's a good platform that is I think their algorithm is really good. Like when I'm looking at my For You page on TikTok and scrolling through, they're hitting me pretty closely, right?
I think they know me better than I do.
Yeah, I'm like subscribing to people, like 2 or 3 people a day. And that to me tells me they're really understanding me if they're finding people I want to see more of. Yep. So I really like TikTok. You know, the monetization on TikTok is up in the air. Again, the platform monetization is terrible. Like even the people who do get into the creator fund earn practically nothing. So
right, we earn zero. I mean, like I think less than $1,000 since we started TikTok. Like it's nothing.
Yeah, and that's why you see a lot of TikTokers who are like, go subscribe to me on Instagram, go subscribe to me on YouTube. I have better stuff there, and I'm like, I don't really want to go there. I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. You can never feed the business somewhere else.
No, so you just have to keep playing with it, let the platform evolve to see if a new way to monetize it comes along. But yeah, I mean, TikTok right now is like the most addictive platform that I'm playing with.
Have you seen this guy Forrest Auto Reviews? He was one of the early TikTok reviewers. Jordan's been friends with him since like kids. I mean, you guys know each other forever. So which was funny because we met totally separate from Forrest. But anyway, Forrest is a full-time automotive TikToker.
Yeah,
he does nothing else.
Yeah.
And so how does he make his money?
So
you don't understand this.
It's a fascinating thing with TikTok because the exposure is so much larger. So they did actually surpass YouTube last year with view numbers count, and time watched, which is crazy because YouTube is huge.
Even time watched.
Yeah, and YouTube has long form, right? So you'd think the time watched would be higher, but
yeah, TikTok. I mean, it's an old statistic now, so it's probably worse. But the average person spends 33 hours a month on TikTok, and for every person who spends 5 minutes, there's someone else doing 2 hours. So it's it's crazy. But the exposure is so high, so you don't really get the monetization from views or ads per se. But people like Forrest, basically what he does is he's like, look, auto companies or, you know, Cuts Clothing or like different sponsors. He's like, here's my numbers. I do millions per video. Sponsor me. Like he gets ad revenue through almost like private ad things, not through TikTok. TikTok pays him minimally.
Yeah, so that's one thing we have yet to experiment with for TikTok. I mean, we have good numbers. The problem is it's hard to prove consistency. We've learned if you crash a car, big numbers. So that's good. Well, yeah. So we got crashed into. We had the new Jeep Greg.
Right, I saw that. Yeah.
The worst possible situation. Brand new car. You know, we hadn't even filmed with it. We were on our way to do a shoot, and this dude slams into the side of us. Yep. And so we're like, oh. Thankfully, like everyone's fine. Like Stellantis didn't seem to care, which was interesting. But anyway, happens. And that video's done like 5 million views. So everyone knows us as the people who've crashed the Jeep.
I think you're doing the right thing because I've seen you on TikTok trying different ideas, trying different formats. Like I love when you skid the vehicle into view and then tear out at the end. Like that's a great intro and outro.
Right.
But like I think the TikToks that I'm most addicted to are the ones that kind of they figure out a format, like they tell a story and they do it every day. You know, right? Because it's got to be repeatable a million times.
Honestly, I think 3 a day is the key.
Yeah, that's what you said, and that's a lot, man. You know, for anybody.
And that's in between. You have to obviously, for us, run our YouTube business first, and then it's like let's just squeeze in TikToks where we can.
A lot of people who are doing TikTok are doing complicated edits. Like they're not. They're not just, you know, single
this
shot.
This is Mr. Complicated Edit right here. He adds 5 hours to every shoot trying to get this transition.
That's every video editor I've ever met. They're all perfectionists, and you just got to beat it out of them.
Yeah, I'm just like, let's just get it in there, and you know, we'll see if it does the thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be super interesting the way things shake out. I mean, you know, wait another 2 or 3 years, there'll be another social media platform probably.
Yeah, so I think the challenge for these existing large sites, in my view, is there's no singular person identity willing to take on the new channels, which is where
we've had that.
I do a lot of presenting, you do a lot of presenting, but imagine asking Motor Trend's XY whatever journalist to say, hey, can you run our TikTok? And like, why wouldn't they just do that themselves?
Yeah, it's we've had that conversation about Motor1 where it's like, you know, we have 4 or 5 different editors who could appear in a video on our YouTube channel. So it's really hard to get a consistent face in front of the audience for them to get used to and want to see. So we've talked about, you know, making just one of our editors the person who only does YouTube videos, and they're like, you know, they're the personality that people can get interested in and addicted to. And the other social media channels are kind of the same way where, you know, we have one editor kind of responsible for each one, and it's kind of more based on luck. It was just like who loves Instagram, and that editor raised their hand and be like, okay, you manage our Instagram channel. Who loves Facebook? Okay, you do that. But it's right. I mean, we have our team kind of more committed to the brand than their own personal brands. They're committed to the Motor1 brand more than their own personal brands. And that's not a judgment, because I've seen the positive effects of both. Because when we talk to automakers and talk about inside EVs, they're like, oh, I see that, you know, Tom Malagny and Kyle Connor are working with you, and they're big influencers, and they like the fact that some people working with us have their own brands and are well known. So, you know, it goes both ways. And I mean, again, going back to like my management style, I always just work with what I have, right? You know, if I have a group of, if I have a team where no one on the team has their own big social media brand, I'm not going to be able to create that out of nothing, or it would take years for them to create that. So I work with what I have, and I just have them pour everything into the official channel. But if someone like you or Tom comes along and they have their own great brands, great. Let's amplify that. Let's make as much as we can for both parties and see what we can do.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone else in the business with that style of management that I've ever seen. I think it's really unique.
I've always had less resources. Well, not less resources than I need. I would say less resources than competitors probably. So I've always had a work with what I have attitude. And it's like, we'll make the best out of what we have. We can't. And I think this has been an important kind of mantra or lesson for us, which is we try not to spend more than we make. That's not a huge revelation. That's like all business should work like that. But I've seen a lot of automotive media brands launch big, make a splash, spend a lot of money, and they end up not lasting long because their money runs out before their traffic comes.
Totally.
And we've always tried to be like, look, let's not live above our means. You know, whatever we do, we need to pay for. So we've always worked with scrappy budgets and things like that. Not to say we're cheap or we don't have a good budget ourselves. We certainly do at this point after having a lot of success. But yeah, it's a work with what you have mentality, because there's no one to go to ask for another $1 million to do this thing, right? It's like
we see this in the YouTube world too, where maybe not necessarily money related, but work related, which is someone says, I'm launching X site. We see it all the time, especially in the EV world. It's a new wave of EV YouTubers. And they're like, we're going to produce a video here, here, and here, and we're going to do all this stuff. And then they get to producing one and they're like, oh, that was actually harder than we thought.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, you just burn yourself out. And so I think, yeah, we've kind of figured out a really good formula for launching new channels, getting them up organically, not really sharing them around. I mean, honestly, we let each channel live in its own niche. I don't think anyone knows everything we're doing, which is what we kind of want, to find the content we produce that you like and just watch that. But it's really this slow dial, and we're just building the inertia.
That's the only way to do it. And investors and media business owners, the ones I work with, I try to make them understand that you can't jumpstart this. Right. It has to grow organically, and usually that's slow until a point that it's not. Usually it's slow growth until something happens and you jump.
Yep.
And that's great. And you just got to make it to that jump, figure out what it is.
Just ramen noodles until that point.
Right. Ramen noodles to that point. Yeah. And on YouTube, it's interesting because on the website side with AutoBlog and Motor1, I built those based on the parts of print magazines that I liked the best growing up, which I liked the first 15 to 20 pages of car magazines. I liked the news. I liked the renderings. I liked the spy shots. And so I built sites that were like that, blogs basically, that pumped out a lot of news that wasn't necessarily long form, but it was like, a little bit of everything you wanted to know. And then on top of that, I layered longer form stuff like reviews and features and things like that. But I always say the base of our pyramid is made with news posts, daily news posts. So I don't know what it's like in the YouTube world because, I don't know like what people get addicted to more than others.
It's hard to say. I think it's all personality. Like we're starting a show technically on Monday, but we start filming on Sunday. We have this studio we built behind for it's called Daily Car News. And remember Fastlane Daily with Derek D?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So we're recreating this because no one's done it.
Yeah.
So we found this awesome presenter who's really funny and charismatic, and he's going to get in there. And every morning he's here at 6 a.m. producing a show, and it's going to suck for the first year and a half. And then hopefully it'll build an audience.
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
That's how we just know that everything sucks when we start it. We started like 3 or 4 new channels in January. We have a gaming channel, we have a micromobility channel, Daily Car News, and I think that's all the new ones.
Yeah, and you hang on to it as long as you feel you can before before it either has that jump or make a decision to sunset it. Yeah,
exactly. And we just have to experiment, but it's all low dollar stuff. All right, let's talk about cars because that's what we're here to do.
Sure.
You're an EV enthusiast, I would say.
I am, and Inside EVs turned me into that. When we acquired Inside EVs and I started working on that site, it just was so clearly the future that I eventually bought a Model 3 and basically have said to myself, I'm never buying another gas car again unless it's like, a 30-year-old classic from the 90s that I just want to own for fun, but like never as a daily driver again.
So you are one of the like 3 people in automotive media that owns a Tesla because everyone seems to hate them. And I don't understand this notion.
Going back to that conversation of how you cover Tesla neutrally.
Yeah. So
I think a lot of automotive media does not cover Tesla in a neutral way because they get colored by how they feel about Elon Musk. They get colored about how they feel about Tesla fans and fanatics. And they kind of don't look at the company or the product and put the other things aside. And you can make arguments about, maybe you can't separate those things, but I try to. Look, I'm an Apple fanatic, and I can't argue that Steve Jobs was a nice person, right?
Right, exactly.
He was an asshole for most of his life.
Yes.
And I don't know why in some businesses it takes an asshole to change the world, but it did in the case of Apple, and it has been in the case of Tesla. I don't have to like the guy, but I don't have to. I mean, I don't really see any reason to hate Elon Musk. I guess I just look at the product and what they're trying to do. And they've been so revolutionary in the automotive industry, not just for the product they created, but in things like manufacturing, in things like marketing, by virtue of the fact they have no marketing.
It's genius.
It's incredibly genius. Do you know how much money automakers spend on marketing? They're the biggest advertisers in all segments. That's like a huge percentage of what you pay for a car is paying for advertising. And Tesla doesn't spend a dime on it. It's absolutely incredible how they've worked that. I think that's the kind of probably the envy of every automaker. So yeah, I think they've revolutionized the auto industry in so many ways, and it's fascinating to watch traditional automakers react, right? And most of them have been with contempt and whatever. Tesla's, I'm not going to do anything Tesla's doing because they're dumb and they're going to go away. And that's been like the thing from the beginning. And I think only recently companies like Ford have started to take pages from Tesla's book. And I think the Mach-E took a lot from Tesla's book, and all for the better. I mean, for me, in terms of like EVs I could afford, the Mach-E is the one I would choose. Because of, they went for the 300-mile range number when others were falling so far short of it. Yep. They put emotion into their vehicle by calling it a Mustang and making it sexy.
Yep.
They did all of these things right. And I almost look at it as like a Model Y with better panel gaps. It's
actually better than a Model Y in many respects.
Yeah.
But and Ford really, I think it's great to see the CEO of Ford, chatting with Elon. We've seen it with Herbert Diess as well.
Exactly. I think those are the smart automakers.
Yeah, they have to be. And honestly, like, I would love to see Herbert Diess leave Volkswagen Group and go to Tesla. That would just be the biggest FU to everyone.
I'm so interested in the next, 5 years. Is Tesla going to remain independent? Is somebody going to acquire Tesla, which I don't even know if that's possible? Is Tesla... I think what's more likely, if it doesn't remain independent, is that Tesla is going to acquire a traditional automaker.
Interesting.
And
I don't know if they need to do it. I think
I don't know if they need to do it either. They're putting up assembly plants like their tents. They get them up like that so fast. They're innovating so much in manufacturing and taking out so much cost and complexity. And like, you look at the Cybertruck, and I know it's delayed, and I know it's not here yet, and I know most people think it's ugly, but like,
it is.
They created a truck that doesn't require paint. Do you know how much money that saves? And it doesn't matter because they saw that everybody was wrapping their Model 3s and Model Ys anyway. So why paint it? People are just going to wrap it, or they can wrap it if they want.
Yep.
Like, and it's funny because at CES we saw BMW come out with that paint changing thing, and I thought to myself, that's totally a cool trick. But you just made paint, something that was already incredibly complex and expensive, like 10 times more complex and expensive.
It's temperature sensitive too. They kept checking it with heat guns and stuff.
They had a backup in a trailer just in case the main one failed.
Exactly. So like, it was a neat trick.
It's a cool concept, and it got them a ton of views. And guess what? Finally, someone said something nice about an iX.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, I hear such great things about the iX as an EV, but I don't know if I could drive that. but look at my bias. I've got an order in for a Cybertruck, and like, that's ugly, but I'm like, I don't care. I want to drive the most futuristic, highest range truck there is.
I think Cybertruck is brilliant. So, a lot of people complain about Tesla's paint quality. And so Tesla's like, okay, we won't paint
it. They just look at problems, and rather than deciding them by committee and coming up with a terrible solution like most automakers do, they just, come up with like an elegant solution, and they rewrite the rules.
I really wish Tesla would make an RV, because that approach, a total refresh to Class B, Class C sort of touring, which is becoming a huge thing, and it will continue over the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, we've seen, like, old people have been RVers. Now, me, my friends, people my age, out of college, they all want these sprinters. They're everywhere here in Colorado, on every corner. Mm-hmm. And so they also all suck. They're terribly built. They all fall apart. And so why do they have to be so garbage?
I don't know if you know this, but my my family has been in the RV industry for a long time.
Yep.
My dad and my uncle owned an RV rental company for a very long time.
Didn't Mark Wahlberg buy it?
Yes, Mark Wahlberg just bought it, and it's now become a Airstream dealer, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
My uncle got to talk to Mark Wahlberg. He's big in the family. But I've been around RVs since I was a teenager. And you're right. This is an industry that builds terrible quality products. Balsa wood walls, they rattle, and this industry also doesn't innovate. Like, everybody buys their RV door from the same company in Elkhart, Indiana. They all buy their bumpers from the same place. They all buy their showers from the same place. So there's like, innovation is glacially slow, but it's accelerated a lot recently with how popular the segments have gotten, and EVs are an opportunity for them to innovate like they never have before. And like you said, with the Tampa show that just happened that we were talking about, there were 2 Class B electric RVs launched and an electric trailer. And I mean, honestly, I think the electric trailer is the smarter solution in the near term, because you're going to have your car that's got, let's say, an 80 to 100 kilowatt battery, and then you're going to have a trailer that has another 80 to 100 kilowatt battery. And that trailer is basically going to make itself feel like it weighs nothing being towed. And it's going to be able to it'll probably be able to not just account for its own weight so that it doesn't lower the range. It might extend the range of the vehicle towing it, which is even better. And so when you look at like a Sprinter or a Transit, like you said in the last conversation we had about this, you really need like a 200 to a 400 kilowatt hour battery pack, which then you're talking about an extreme expense.
Expense, weight, recyclability. I mean, just cost,
charging time.
Yeah, everything gets worse. Versus, I can just put diesel in a tank and go.
I don't know if you had this debate before you bought the Revel, but we really debated over getting something that was an RV that was self-contained, that drove itself around, versus a trailer. Because
we thought about this.
Because when you have a camper van, like, you have that's your daily driver too. You camp, and then if you want to go anywhere, you got to break camp. Drive somewhere and come back.
Put everything away.
Put everything away.
I've learned, don't leave anything on countertops. It's a disaster.
It'll break something. It'll fly off the counter. Whereas a trailer, it's longer, it's less maneuverable, but you get somewhere, you unhook, and then you have a vehicle you can drive around and a base camp that you just leave there. So I think there's virtues for both, and we're gonna do what you did. We bought an Echo, which is like a Revel, so it's all self-contained. But I'm curious, like, are we going to, like, halfway through, are we going to be like, should we buy like a Fiat 500 to tow behind us because we're sick of breaking down camp all the time when we just want to go to the movies?
That thought, but I think I want one. You know these new overlanding trailers? They look super rad with these like lift kits and the rooftop tents. And like, what we're finding is, like, you've gone camping with us in the Revel, and we've brought some of the team out too, where we did this one cool day where we brought electric motorcycles, we brought a tent, we brought all of our friends, and we all went. I mean, we're in the mountains. We just went like an hour away from our house. And then we were like, where do we sleep, everyone? And we're like, oh, now we're erecting tents and everything. I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if we could just bring more beds with us? And so I've been kind of thinking, okay, what I really want to do is start an RV channel, but we're just way overworked. So this is a next year project, but I'll
work with you on it. I love that.
These trailer things. And I was like, okay, let's do some towables. And I think that's the perfect solution. Keep the Sprinter as the driver with like just stuff in the cabinets, and then sleep in the trailers.
Well, you mentioned to me you might get an Echo. They have the pop top Echo too, so that could sleep 4 with.
I'm not even familiar with this. So it's an Echo that raises up.
Yeah, it's got a bed on the top, and it raises like that.
Oh, cool.
So you can sleep 2 up there. You can sleep 2 in the back of the Echo. You could pull a towable, sleep another 2.
The Echo is great because it's on the Transit chassis, which I've learned the Mercedes chassis genuinely sucks up here.
Really? What haven't you liked about it?
It's just the engine. The engine. Altitude at sea level, it's perfect.
Yeah, really like the Transit's EcoBoost turbocharged EcoBoost.
Yeah, they're so fast. I mean, it's a race van, those things. And then you can even tune them. Like, it's crazy. The Sprinter is so slow. It lives at wide open throttle, full boost, going down the highway at 80 miles an hour. And it's just so laggy. You put your foot down at a red light, and I'm like power braking it at every stoplight just to get it on boost before I go. Really terrible engine calibration. And then as soon as we get down to LA, I mean, you couldn't even keep up with the thing in the Miata.
Well, yeah, that's a Miata, but
but it's a race van at sea level, but it sucks. And everyone has one up here. So I don't know what Mercedes was thinking, but
by the way, there's another bed you could get out of either your Revel or the Echo. There's a blow up mattress that is designed to basically fill in all the crevices in the front cab to form a bed out of the two front seats. So
really,
it's got a middle section that like goes down to the floor, but then it comes up over the seats. And I think they make them designed specifically for the Transit or the Sprinter or the Ram van.
Oh, we need that.
And it makes a single bed. But again,
it's always going to be like me, and then like there's a friend, and I'm like, you know, our friend Drew runs Martian Wheels. We were out at Sonoma Raceway doing a shoot recently. I'm like, sorry, Drew, I love you, but you're not sleeping in the bed with me. And he slept in the Tesla. And so like, it would be great to have an opportunity to sleep someone else.
Yeah. These are all, separate spaces you can get people to sleep in. My hope with the Echo is that it can handle itself off-road just a little bit. It is all-wheel drive, which is great.
It's a dually, right?
It is a dually. Companies like Quigley have already come out with lift kits and to fit bigger tires. So, but I'm hoping from the factory, like, I'm not looking to go off-road, but I want to get back into.
We're going to go off-road.
Yeah, you will.
When you come and visit, we're taking that thing on some trails.
Oh my God. We'll see how comfortable with it we are by that time.
Yeah, just break it in by that point so you don't worry about it.
I'm still waiting for it. It was originally supposed to come last like September, October, and now April is as soon as it's expected. They got hit by the chip shortage, and then they had a big recall for their shower. Their shower was draining water on top of the inverter. So,
that's such a Winnebago thing, though.
Yeah, and it took them a long time to come up with a fix. So they
is
finally.
It a separate shower, or is it it's a wet bath?
It's a combination. It's got a pivoting wall inside the bathroom.
That's right.
Where when it's one way, it's just the toilet and the sink, and it's the whole room is that, and then you turn the wall, and then it's all shower, and everything else is protected against the water.
That's so much better than our solution, which is like everything gets wet.
Everything gets wet, yeah, the wet bath.
It's so awkward. And then like there's not enough room for me to actually, with the door closed, sort of dry off in the shower. And like the best thing about the Revel and the Echo is we can bring showers wherever we go. Exactly. I love that. But there's some innovative work going on with like extending the curtain out into the main walkway, and it's tight. The Echo has a lot more room, and with two dogs, like we are just jammed in this thing.
Have you ever looked at the company Advanced RV?
No.
They make pretty much just custom jobs. So they're very expensive. We're talking, $300,000 probably minimum, but they have a shower system that has a cool bar that goes out, and it kind of pushes the whole curtain, not just at the top, I think, but maybe in the middle too. It pushes it out to give you a lot more elbow room. They're using recirculating shower technology, which is pretty cool. That's where you can make 3 gallons of water last for 8 showers.
Yeah, because the water tanks on these are small. What's the tank in the?
It's actually really good. It's 50 gallons fresh water and 50 gallons gray. And then the sucky part is it's a 5-gallon black cassette.
Oh, so that's what we have. Toilet. It sucks. It's the worst part.
Yeah, so I'm gonna buy an extra 5-gallon tank so we can at least swap them out.
It's actually lasted us like a week at a time for 2 people.
That's not bad.
Which is great. And honestly, when we're driving, we'll just use a truck stop or go into a Love's.
You just use another bathroom whenever you can.
So it's just for can we not stop, or in middle of the night type situation.
Yeah, I'm pretty jazzed about the 50-gallon fresh water though, because that's bigger than anything we saw.
22, and we get maybe 3 days if we're lucky.
So that's like 2 showers a day.
That's 2 showers a day, really quick. We're talking spray off, soap, spray as quick as we can off.
Yeah, the submarine showers. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know how much. I'm interested to see the share of boondocking we do, like free camping on Bureau of Land Management land,
going to be 90%.
versus RV parks. I hope so.
Yeah, why would you want to go to an RV park and be around people?
Exactly. When a lot of RV parks, the view ain't great. You're just staring at other RVs and stuff. And so
yeah, they suck. But on the East Coast, there's not many opportunities. But here's what we found. No one ever checks on it, at least in the van. We just park anywhere. I've camped in that thing in the middle of Brooklyn, just parked it on the street.
I think you can get away with that more.
Yeah, maybe more than the Echo.
The Echo, because the Echo doesn't look like a normal van. It definitely throws off RV vibes, I think, a lot more. But we honestly, we're gonna get. Do you have Harvest Hosts?
Yes, love Harvest Hosts. The best.
I'm excited about trying.
Hold on, I gotta show you this. So, I hope you can still hear me.
Yeah, we can.
Hosts is basically wineries, breweries, and distilleries that host parking spots for our audience. It's $99 a year, something like that. We went to this one in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, just a few weeks ago, and the like totally homebrew Casca. This is a gin bottle here, and we love this. We stayed at one. We actually didn't stay overnight, but we stopped in at one that was a nuclear launch site.
Wow.
For a missile in the middle of Kansas. It was the coolest thing. I thought I was going to die because the dude's like, oh, let me take you on a tour. And then he's like, oh, I need to switch the breaker on the other side of this 30-ton blast door. And so I was like, this is it. We're dying. But then he was a little bit of an odd guy. But
yeah,
amazing to go in that. You just see cool things.
Right. And you're right. Most of them are like wineries or breweries. And we don't really drink. So we're a little concerned about because you're supposed to spend money at each one. So
yeah, you could just give them $20 or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. And then some of them are really when they're not wineries or breweries, they're, could be a museum, could be a golf course. There's all these other random places that are doing Harvest Hosts. So yeah, I'm really excited for that. We just started booking some stays. We got a parking spot for the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta, which is their big hot air balloon thing. So we're starting to realize we do have to plan a little if we want to see some things.
That's the hardest part for us because, as Jordan knows, planning and me do not go hand in hand.
Kind of spur of the moment.
Yeah, just wake up in the morning. What are we going to do today? So,
and we don't want to have a route. We kind of just want to go and just be like, where do you want to go next? Where do you want to go next?
So that's the biggest problem with Harvest Hosts is we'll just start driving, and then when we get tired, we're like, all right, what's around here where we can stop? And thankfully, there's enough BLM land or just even side of the road. I don't care. Once we put up the shades, we're in our own little house. But Harvest Host, you do need to book a day in advance.
Oh, that's not bad, though. I thought it might be more.
If you know you're going to see
going that way,
relatives or something like this, and there's some amazing things. The other thing that I highly recommend you just keep on I think they just launched an app in partnership with Land Rover. It's called Atlas Obscura. And
I
so you just
signed up for, or I follow them on Facebook, maybe.
Yeah. So you just see the coolest stuff. So you put in your route, and it'll say, "Here's all the things you could stop at." That's
exactly
10 miles off.
That's what we want because we basically have a year carved out for this. So we have no agenda. We'll just wander.
So what happens after the year? You going back to Motor1? What do you do?
I don't know. I didn't make any commitments. I'm gonna do some work for Motor1 and some other companies we have while I'm gone. So I'll keep a connection, but I don't know. It's
going to run out of spec in a year. That way,
I don't know. I might start an RV blog. I might,
Yes, out of spec RVing. So this, I think, is such a huge opportunity because I watch Matt's RV reviews and Andrew Steele's reviews every day. Never miss a video. So I don't watch any car content on YouTube. It's just RV stuff.
That's funny. We watch a lot of people who travel in their RV full time. There's a couple named The Winds.
Yeah,
WYNN, and they're sailing now. They've been sailing for the past couple of years, but their original videos when they were just driving around in a big Class A RV are excellent. They are wonderful video producers.
So the big question is, how do we get the RVs over to Europe? Because I've already done all the U.S. I've been to every state.
It's a good question. There's a couple named Eamon and Beck who did it, and they actually, when the pandemic happened, they had to abandon their camper van in Morocco, and it was there for a year and a half in a parking lot until they could go back and get it. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how you do it. I imagine it's like a shipping company that handles.
Yeah, put it on a boat somewhere.
Yeah, on a boat, but a lot of people do it. You can find RVing channels with couples who are doing it.
Yeah, that's like in 5 years once this machine is running. I just can't commit to any time.
It would be cool. Like the RV industry in Europe is completely different compared to the RV industry in the US. They have better products. They have way more innovation. Yep. They have just cooler stuff all the way around. And whenever something from Europe leaks over into the US industry, it's a huge deal because
they can put cars in their Class A's like underneath.
Why don't we do that? Why don't we sell that? That would be the dream.
Yep.
But yeah, you should go over there and buy one or go over there and rent one or something. They've got better stuff than we've got over here.
Yeah, we are working on an out of spec Germany division, so we can get. So basically, we've missed out on so many German launches because we're not there. So right near where Motor1's offices are, actually, like right across the street, we're looking at a spot.
Oh, sweet!
And which would be cool.
Honestly, one of the biggest benefits of Motor1 compared to like when I was at AutoBlog was there was only one AutoBlog, right? With Motor1, there's 13 editions around the world. So if Motor1 US doesn't get invited to drive a car, chances are Motor1 Germany did or Motor1 France. So it's like we've never missed a first drive because we've always got 1 to 3 editions going to drive that car based on where they live. Because all these automakers are siloed in their countries. They don't really notice or even care if they invite 3 different Motor1s.
They don't even talk to each other. They probably don't even know who they are.
They want to make, like, Ford Germany wants to make sure that German people read about it. So they invite Motor1 Germany.
Yep.
So yeah, I when I joined Motor1, I wasn't sure about the whole global network.
Oh, it's the move.
Yeah, completely became a convert because it has given us so many advantages like that.
And the highest priority, which we can't quite do because of travel restrictions, is China. That's by far.
Well, I mean, for EVs, I think Tesla's so far ahead, but you look at the Chinese automakers like NIO and what's another one?
There's XPeng, BYD.
XPeng, yeah. They, like, to me, they're the only competition with Tesla. Like,
I agree with that.
Of course, they're competing directly in China, but I think we look at it in the US as like Tesla and the Chinese automakers are going to come head to head on American soil at some point.
Yep.
And the question for the other automakers is, are you going to survive? Because these are the Chinese automakers are innovating so much. They're doing battery swaps. They're eclipsing 300-mile ranges. They've got advanced driving systems like Tesla's. They are not messing around. They have completely like matched Tesla as they're going. And so it's just a question of can one or more of them come over to the US and introduce US customers to superior EV products that they have?
Well, and that's going to be the thing. And so, like, if in our world where we cover electric and combustion, but like I'm obviously passionate about electric cars. It's just starting. We are at the tippy stone. I mean, last year was huge. We had all of the American startups sort of present their cars. We got to drive the Lucid. We got to do the Rivian stuff, which TFL is actually producing a ton of content with the Rivian right now, like awesome stuff, charging tests, drag races, faster than a Model Y performance, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah. And so I'm so into the Rivian thing. I love that truck.
I am too. I'd love the Rivian. And if I don't eventually get a Cybertruck, that would be my second choice, easy. And I love those products, Lucid and Rivian, but I also recognize that they are at a point where Tesla was at 8 years ago, right? Totally. Their production capacity is nil, right? Yep. Like they made a good product. It is in production, but they have a wait list that's a mile long, and they can only manufacture a very small number of vehicles. So it's like, and for both cases, they're still pretty expensive. Like, it
doesn't move the needle to the average person.
It doesn't move the needle. And Tesla's so far down that road of bringing costs down, keeping range and the technology level up, that I think Rivian and Lucid have a shot to be around a long time, but they're still early on. They're as early on the curve as the traditional automakers are. They just have a better product than the traditional automakers. So hopefully that gives them the edge.
So what happens to, I don't know, I think BMW is the biggest at risk, or Mercedes, or one of these companies. What will we see one of these giant automakers fail?
I'll tell you what, in terms of their EV products, I've been disappointed with, like I said, kind of with everyone except Ford, for one reason or another. The Germans, their first gens were all way too low range. All they made were good cars that happened to be electric. They were not good EVs.
Right.
Then the Taycan came out. Great platform, great at everything.
So expensive.
So expensive. Doesn't move the needle at all.
It's honestly too expensive, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's for the people who money doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, you have, I mean, Mercedes is starting to come out with its second gen stuff with like EQS, but to me,
it's so ugly. Who wants to buy that?
Like I've often seen cars go from concept to production and like lose a lot of their passionate design. I've never seen one get so dull from concept to production as the EQS. The EQS concept was gorgeous.
Have you driven it, by the way?
I haven't, no.
Oh, it's magical. Really good.
Right. I mean, it's a Mercedes.
So
again.
ugly.
Like, I don't doubt Mercedes' ability to produce a great car, but to produce a great EV, and in this case, they went so far over the edge towards efficiency and having just the most aerodynamic car, they left all design out of it. Right.
And then they got smoked by Lucid. So what was all that work for?
Right. So what was the point? So now you're Mercedes, which is a great name, but you have a 400-mile car, and this other company has a 500-mile car for the same price.
Yep.
You know. So again, I don't know that any automaker could buy Rivian or even Lucid at this point, but they should have. Right. Yeah,
they really should have. You know, I know Porsche was in talks with Ativa before it became Lucid to look at technology. I think Porsche with those Rimats deal is going to just go crazy.
That's super interesting. The Rimac and taking over Bugatti. Like, I mean, clearly that car and their technology is top rate. But again, they've probably made like 10 of them. You know?
I don't even know if it's that many.
I don't even know that many either. It could be like 3. So yeah, I mean, I look at Stellantis because they're always on shaky ground. Like Chrysler is always 2 steps from being sold.
Does Chrysler sell anything other than the Pacifica?
Right now, the Pacifica Hybrid. They came out with that concept a couple weeks ago. What was it? The Airflow or something?
We saw that at CES. But that's mostly a Euro concept that they were like, we'll put
it was good looking, but I think, like, you know, having covered EV, anybody who produces an EV, like, you show a concept that has good specs, you know, you get a thumbs up, but that's it. You've done nothing.
We don't even cover them anymore.
Yeah, all you've done is made a promise that you're probably going to change by the time it reaches production.
Yeah, because it's a page 1 story when you launch it, and then it's a page 11 story when you delay it. So they just need
when you delay it. So yeah, Stellantis is hugely behind the curve, and you know they're trying to catch up with plug-in hybrids. You know, everything Jeep is getting a plug-in hybrid version, but
they suck. They really do.
I mean, I liked where the original Volt was heading, where it had 50 miles of range for a plug-in hybrid. To me, I think that's minimum. But it seems like the industry has decided 25 to 30 miles is minimum.
Yeah, so like, why no more range extent? You know John Volker, I'm sure. So we had him on last week, and we talked about, you know, the plug-in hybrid. They all pretty much do between like 18 and 40 miles. But who ever asked for a car that said, I really want to go 18 to 40 miles on a charge and then switch to gas? I think the real answer was the i3 range extender, which was an EV 99% of the time, unless you had a little backup if you need to go on a trip. The Volt was similar too, an EV.
Yeah, but didn't it have like a 3-gallon gas tank?
Yeah, well, so there were issues with it. One, it couldn't keep up on the hills, and the fuel tank was too small. It was 2.4 gallons. By the way, that was unlocked. It was 1.6, I think, from the factory. So like, yeah, I mean, I've owned 3 of them. They're hilarious, but like,
they're great cars though. The interior of the i3 is one of the best interiors ever made.
They're just a little bit awkward, but I think they've aged well. That's a car that's almost 10 years old, and then you see like an i3S blacked out with the little wide haunches. Like,
you can pick them up for cheap now too, like $10,000-$12,000.
So that was the case 3 months ago.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, a year or 2 ago, I was kind of looking, and I was like, oh no. And then right now I'm looking, it's like, oh, a used i3 from like 4 or 5 years ago is 18 grand now.
Yeah, not even a range extender. It's insane.
Yeah, the ones you want are over 20.
For our second car, we bought a Spark EV.
Great car.
Yeah, totally recommend. It was cheap, but I recently looked. It was like, I think we bought it for $9,000 at the time, and it had like 13,000 miles. But now it's like worth $9,000 again. Like,
So now's the time to sell everything.
I know, as long as you don't need to buy anything to drive,
Right.
keep an electric bike or something to get around.
What do you think your Tesla's worth? Do you think you'll break even on that thing?
Oh, so we're gonna sell it. So because like I don't want a car sitting around for a year while we're gone.
Yeah, that seems silly.
So we're gonna sell it and have it help fund what we're doing. And I've looked at it, and I'm probably going to sell it to a Carvana or one of those.
Vroom is paying big dollars.
Exactly. These are the startups that have tons of investment money that they're just blowing on used cars.
Yep.
So I think my what I bought it for was like 55, let's say. I think it was mid 50s, and I definitely think I'll be able to get 45 for it.
And you got a tax credit, right?
I got a tax credit, but half of one. It was when it was reduced to half. It does have full self-driving, and it's a long range dual motor. I haven't really done much to it. I did put the those wheel covers on that scratch the wheels. What are they called?
Yeah. So what's the story with that? Because I never really, I only like dabbled with it. But you were excited about these things.
I was totally excited about it, and I don't even remember the name.
It's like you're excited about the Cyberlander, which is never going to become a thing.
Yeah. I totally wanted to, but I think you're probably right. No, these were wheel covers that they almost looked like the larger 19 or 20 inch Model 3 wheels that you got on the Performance at the time. They almost look like that, but a little different.
So they replaced the stock ones.
Yeah.
So take the stock 18s off.
And you just pop this right on, like with clips. And the company was in Cleveland too, where I live. So I was like, oh, that's super cool. So we got some to test. Tom got a set and I got a set. We just put them on, and Tom wrote a really nice review of them. Turns out they scratch your wheels. Like and I didn't even notice, because when you're in the car, you don't hear it. But once someone told me, I rolled down the windows and I drove down a bumpy road, and they're like rattling on the wheel. You can hear them moving. So Tom contacted them and was like, hey, your covers scratched my wheels. And they refused to do like anything about it.
Really?
The only thing they've done is they've come out with a strip of padding that you take the covers off, you put this padding on your wheels, and then you put the cover back on. So then it stops rattling, it stops moving around.
How's that going to handle weather cycles? Like, that's not tested.
I don't know. Yeah. But I've kept them on my car, because if you put the old covers back on, the original ones, the original ones don't cover the lip of the wheel, so you don't see all the scratches. So you're kind of just like stuck with these wheels. So I don't know how Carvana is going to feel about these aftermarket wheel covers, but they honestly, they do look great.
They probably won't even notice. I don't even think anyone looks at those places.
I don't think so either. I think they probably won't notice. I did put a wrap on my interior on the piano plastic. I put a matte wrap on it.
Yeah, need to do that.
What else did I do? Oh, it does have a clear wrap on the front, the lower sides, and the back fender. And then I did get it ceramic coated at the time, but that was like 3 years ago, so I don't think that's worth much anymore.
Yeah, I did sell my Fiat. I had a 1957 edition Fiat 500.
Whoa.
Super cool.
What does a 1957 edition get you?
So you get the vintage badges, the really cool
wheels.
Retro wheels.
Yeah.
It's all like cream and leather interior, brown leather, and I had the Celeste blue exterior color. Amazing car. And I sold that to Carvana, and they paid like double what CarMax and even Private Party, like they gave me the Private Party higher end KBB value for it. And it had a lot of cosmetic issues. You know, I drove it on the highway in Dallas for 40,000 miles. And so rock chipped to death, and they just didn't care. They just gave me full, like, they're like, okay, here you go.
How did those people stay in business?
And they came and picked it up. Like, it
when
was.
When did you sell it? Recently?
This was pre-COVID.
This was 2019. So yeah, I got a great deal before prices were inflated.
Yeah, I would sell it right now, because you never know how long this inflated used car market is going to last.
Well, what do you think? What does the future look like?
Well, I don't know everything going on with the chip shortage, but it's astonishing that the industry has been so unprepared for this. And what I've read about it is this is why companies like Tesla amaze me and the traditional industry disappoints me. From what I've read, the traditional automotive industry were using chips that were super old, that the chip makers didn't really want to make anymore because they want to move on to newer, better chips. But these chips were just kind of already tested and rated for use in automobiles, so they could take the beating of being in an automobile. And so when the shortage happened, these chip makers basically just had no other solution for the traditional automakers, because the traditional automakers got so addicted to this one style of chip, and they couldn't adapt to a different chip. Whereas Tesla was already using more advanced chips, and they just switched to a different chip and wrote a little code, and their production never interrupted. So, our used car prices can't stay this high forever. I mean, they're like a third of the inflation that's happening is car prices, right? That's a huge part of it. So I just can't imagine that the traditional automakers won't figure this out, but they're so slow to move. Like, they built their supply chains, and to change that takes years,
It's been wild to think about it. I mean, even from an advertising perspective, I don't understand why an automaker would even
advertise right now.
Like, yeah, why? You can't.
Don't tell them that. Don't tell them that.
Yeah. Well, at least on our side, we don't accept any money from them. So yeah, we're good.
No, I mean, we do, and we've had those conversations where they'd be like, "Well, we have a new car coming out, but we've already sold as many as we can make because we can't make that many." So
really, so they're just like, "No, there's no need to do anything."
Kind of, but they
still want good PR.
Here's the thing: they may have cut their budgets, but they can't get rid of advertising because they're a machine that already has that part of the machine built. They have a marketing department, so it's not like they can fire everybody. They have to keep paying for it. So they do campaigns to build awareness or to shape opinion or do things like that. But yeah, they're not really advertising to like sell the car. They have no problem selling all the cars they're building right now.
Yeah. Well, sorry to keep you for an hour and 6 minutes, but we could go on for another 5.
No, I love these. I love doing podcasts. I love listening to podcasts, and always happy to talk to you guys.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks so much, John. Where can people follow you or see your stuff? I mean, obviously you do some writing for Inside EVs and Motor1, I guess.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm kind of the wizard behind the curtain, so I don't know that they'd even notice when I pop up on the site. But like I said, I'm still doing some writing for Motor1, working with Inside EVs. And actually, I don't know if you guys heard about this or remember, but our company bought DuPont Registry.
Yep.
And I'm doing a lot of work with them too, so I'll probably show up there as well.
I think you should start an RV travel podcast.
Yeah.
A podcast would be great because I don't have any video editing skills, so a podcast would work a lot better for me than.
Yeah, you just go and say, "Hey, we went here today." It'd be fun to do like a little 8-minute segment: what you do, where you went, what you saw, how that goes doing,
or even longer. Because there's a lot of people making RV content on YouTube, but I don't know of hardly any people podcasting, and a lot of RV people consume podcasts.
That's right, while they're driving.
So go for it. Long form, 2 hours, whatever you want.
Now, tell me how to monetize it.
Well, yeah, I don't know if you can monetize podcasts.
Right, exactly. Well, I could probably get some nice free gear out of it to test.
Yeah, absolutely. Stuff like that. And you can inflate numbers so easily on podcasts. 5 million people listen to me.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Where's the proof? I don't know. Yeah,
exactly. Cool. So yeah, then you can find me on my podcast launching soon on your favorite podcast streaming platform.
Awesome. Well, John, we hope to have you back very soon. We really enjoyed this conversation, and we'll see you guys all in the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do this again when I'm on the road.
Sounds good.
All right.